Recording in progress.
And also a Facebook audience too. So thank you for your patience. I'm Lee Raj with Leader Ethics, and we're coming to tonight's program, Public Education in Lacrosse, Enrollment Trends, Budget Issues, and Community Relations. This program is brought to you by Community. This is a collaborative media community organization effort to try to get timely and accurate information about important issues for this community. And certainly tonight's topic qualifies. The members of Community are the Lacrosse Tribune, WXOW, WKBT, WIZM News Radio, Wisconsin Public Radio, Great Rivers United Way, and Leader Ethics. This program is being broadcast on Zoom and Facebook, and we will be ending our program at 8 p.m. First of all, let me introduce our speakers. Tonight, our speakers include Aaron Engel, Superintendent of the School District of Crosse, Vicki Markson, owner and publisher of Biz News, Greater Lacrosse, and our moderator tonight is Rusty Cunningham, former editor of the Lacrosse Tribune. We will allow time for questions. If you're here at the London Center audience, we invite you to come up to the microphone here so your questions can be heard by everyone. If you're in the virtual audience, send your questions to the chat function. And if we need to, our speakers have agreed to stay around a little bit afterwards for additional questions. So now, I'd like to turn the program over to Rusty Cunningham.
Thank you very much, Lee. There are plenty of challenges facing public education, including the school district of Crosse, from changing enrollment patterns, budget shortfalls, to aging facilities. And there are plenty of success stories too. Tonight, we want to focus on increasing dialogue as a community to help face those challenges and build on those successes in a more unified manner instead of through the lens of North versus South. While we need to touch on referendums, past and upcoming, tonight is an opportunity to begin what Leader Ethics hopes is a continuing discussion about developing a unified vision and community expectations for the future of our school district. To start, it may be helpful to learn more about some of the challenges that are facing the district. So Dr. Engel, could you please help give us a bit of an overview of some of the challenges the district is facing? Maybe even include some demographic information, for instance, the percentage of students who receive subsidized lunches and who don't have technology available for at-home learning.
So some of the challenges that we've been facing in public education over the last few years, they involve declining enrollment, a large piece of that, deficit budgets, and aging buildings. On the declining enrollment front, over the last 30 years, we've had a continual decrease in the number of students enrolled in our school district. 1993 was the high water. Since 2001, we've lost about 1,800 students in the school district, almost 23%. So a large shift in the number of students in our school district. And it's averaged about 110 each year over the last 6 years. We've always worked about where those trends going. Is it just historical, or is it something we're going to continue to face in the future? And so we've worked with the UW Applied Population Lab, a group that does population studies, and they found we can expect continued declining enrollment for the next decade as well. And of course, we're curious, like, where is it coming from? Why are fewer kids in school districts? This situation is much different than most other school districts across the state or even the nation. People are having fewer kids, birth rates are lower, and so that's the experience that we've had here in Lacrosse. And schools are funded on a per pupil basis. We get a certain amount of money for each student that is enrolled in our school, and so as we have fewer students, we have fewer dollars to fund education. And unfortunately, just given the nature of how these things work, we're not able to reduce our budgets as quickly as we're losing revenue. You lose 1 or 2 kids in a classroom, you can't cut a teacher. You have to manage that over time. So it really puts a pinch on our ability to fund public education. Additionally, since 2009, schools haven't gotten inflationary increases to public education. The money that the state has allowed us to raise has been less than inflation. And it's created a pretty significant gap in what our ability is at the local level to fund our schools. It's grown to about $3,200 inflation gap per pupil for our school district. Here in La Crosse, that means about a $19.2 million underinvestment in public education this year alone. It's just a substantial loss in opportunity to be able to educate. La Crosse also has an older stock of buildings as well. We've got some aging facilities, and we need to invest in those as well. And with that underinvestment at the state level in public education, it's been a challenge to keep up on all the things that we have in the school district. And our custodians do an amazing job of making our buildings welcoming, clean, suitable, and safe. But we want to update our buildings to provide them. As it relates to some of the demographics, things have shifted in La Crosse over the years. 20 years ago, we had about a 30% poverty rate. We're up to 52% of students on free and reduced lunch today. So some shifting demographics, changes in the needs of our students, and the sorts of supports we need to provide them so they can show up to school ready to learn every single day.
But there are also some good success stories. And one I want to make sure to ask you about is the Charter Polytechnic that's downtown. But would you give us an idea of some of the things that you're especially proud of right now?
Yeah, we've got some amazing choice and charter options in the school district. Some of the incredible programs that are serving kids for the workforce, getting them interested in what they want to do when they grow up. We've got an incredible youth apprenticeship program where we're connecting students in high school to a business through a school to work supervised program. And we have kids working in dozens of industries across our community, providing skilled labor and work for our community businesses and exploring a job that they want to grow up. So that's been an incredible partnership. We've got amazing opportunities for students through our. We've got an ACE Construction Academy that helps students explore the field of trade. They get to build a whole house over the course of 2 years and learn everything from foundations to roofing, electrical, and plumbing. We've got a health science academy to help support our valuable health. Kids get to explore a range of medical professions, take some classes that are really unique oriented for them. Both come out with a senior license. Just an incredible opportunity. We've also got an engineering academy, and we're looking to do a college, aviation. So there's just an amazing opportunity for our students here in La Crosse, all of our students.
Terrific. I'm going to get to you in a moment, Vicki, but I'm going to ask Dr. Engel first. Questions related to referendum. You have an upcoming referendum request. Could you help us understand what you're asking as a district?
Yeah, so I talked about inflation in state funding. So we just want to see the funding necessary to build great programs and properly for our students in the future. So what we're asking for is some assistance to fund our public education globally. We've had an operational referendum in place for 20 years, 4 consecutive operational referendums. Our community strongly supports public education. We've seen that continually. The last operational referendum has at a 75% rate. And we're confident that the community will continue to support public education here, help us continue those great things that help kids read and write and math, and also be prepared for the workforce, support our path right here across.
Terrific.
Dr. They want to check your microphone, so you can't hear you online.
Oh,
Is your mic on?
it is.
Okay. Which number do you have? Do you know?
That's 211. C.
The number C.
That's an option for now. Yeah.
Used to.
Does this work?
Yes.
Good.
And
Okay, thank you. Community said no to a November referendum seeking to develop one high school. Dr. Engel, I'm curious, from that experience, what did you learn about the community and how has it shaped your approach to building community support when the decision was made to close Lincoln Middle And then seeking voter support for this upcoming referendum.
Yeah, with the referendum in November, we had an opportunity to engage the community continually through our long facility planning process and the informational sessions that we held for that referendum. And one of the things that we came to realize is our community, I think, does understand the challenge. I think they do understand the declining enrollment, the budget, the building. It was also clear that we didn't want the solution. Soundly rejected at the polls, and we heard that. But at the same time, we also heard that they do support our great teachers. They support our students, and they want us to, at least for now, invest in the buildings that we do have, not invest in any particular solution. So I think all of that was great feedback. The opportunity, get out in the community, you're listening as much as trying to present information. So I think between the results of the referendum, as well as all of those opportunities to engage in the community, those are some of the key things that occurred.
Terrific. Vicki, in your role representing the Northside Lacrosse Business Association, you opposed the plan to create one high school, and you talked about the importance of neighborhood schools. Could you please provide your vision of the neighborhood school and why it is so important and at what cost?
So my work with the North Crosse Business Association, we had Dr. Engel come, and the group saw the impact of closing Logan. As many of you know, some of that is just that pride of the north side. It says it across the north side elementary, pride of the north side, that runs deep, but also just had concerns because of the economic challenges of a lot of those students, and really saw it as you are taking some of the disadvantaged students and adding more barriers by having them bus farther away, not to mention distance from French Island. So that was a hardship that the North Crosse Business Association really saw. The Logan North Side was also with us on that. And it was interesting because it started that conversation around the neighborhood schools and transportation. Like everyone was talking about what is it going to do for transportation costs and riding to school when walkability is very important. And the story that really drove it home for me, it was an experience more than a story, was I went, it was 3:30, stopped at the Bridgeview Plaza Farmers Market. And there was a young man there who was Hmong, and I said, oh, what school do you go to? I go to Logan Middle School. And he was there to help his grandma pack up from the farmer's market. And it dawned on me that this young man, that is part of what he does. He rides his bike after school to go help his grandma pack up from the farmer's market. And that, to me, epitomized the hardship on some of those families and the importance of having walkability. And, you know, when you have working parents, the ability to walk home from school and the ability to essentially be able to have the lifestyle that meets their economic needs and their family needs. So that was the conversation, honestly, that started in the community then, was the perception, even as my kids went to Emerson, there was a walking bus to get to school. It was all about walkability and trying to promote healthy lifestyle. So I think a lot of people in our community, I'll use past tense, had the perception that we emphasize neighborhood school. And then that sparked conversation, I know, coming out of the school district of, do we actually have that, given that we have charters? And I don't want to tell that story for you, but I think it really sparked conversation of, do we have neighborhood school? Do we have charter school? Can we have both? And I think that is a really critical conversation moving forward with what the conversations the school district have.
So as a community group that's supporting neighborhood schools, how do you also engage in the larger conversation of the district as a whole, community as a whole, and facing some of the challenges that a district faces, especially with population issues, enrollment issues, but also with the aging buildings?
Yeah, the North Crosse Business Association took the stance of someone has to speak up. It just so happens that was the first group. The Logan North Side got on board with it. Pursue a Better Plan came out. And so really it was speaking up, people rallied around that message, if you will. And it grew quite grassroots. It wasn't strategic. It was just a group that decided to have to make their concerns known, and then people started to come into that organization.
But how do you take that passion? I mean, Dr. Engel, I'm sure could tell you that when there's a passion issue, Hogan is filled with people during school board meetings. But how do you take that passion and turn it into an every week sort of mantra for people to get involved, to support the district, not just focusing on single issues?
I think the overriding theme, and I think it still continues, people want to be engaged, right? So that, and when you say a single issue, are we talking about the consolidation? I guess what I'm interested in and trying to drive people towards, as we speak of that passion of people showed up, they voted, they had an opinion, but we are not doing a service to our school by then walking away and saying, okay, we did that, let's just move on to regular life. We have to be part of those solutions. And I think that there is a public out there that wants to be engaged. And so they're asking, what's the next step? How does that long-term plan get formed? We need people to step up. We need people providing that input. And so again, don't walk away, stay engaged in the conversation. To get to the point of how do we move beyond this, one of the things that the group did was send a survey out. It was based off of, some people may be familiar with Net Promoter Scores, and it's gauging satisfaction. So 300 plus people responded to it. 3 questions are, how likely are you to support this referendum? Why or why not? And what information do you need to to feel like you are an educated voter? And then he took that information, kind of broke it down and gave it to the school district to say, if you want people to approve this referendum, here's the information that they need to get. And some of that feedback, so I'm going on and on from your question, but some of that feedback is, I think, is really helpful. If, you know, they need transparency, they want to be able to trust. So transparency comes with trusting. They really want disclosure of, and people go to different things, right? Some people love numbers, some people hate numbers, but you have to provide the numbers because otherwise you start to have these critics that start poking holes in the things that they are saying. For others, it's more emotional. And the hard part of the school district is straddling all of those different approaches as to how people make decisions. But it's information that the group is giving to the school district to say, here's what you need to do to be able to help the public move forward.
So I have a couple of questions for both of you. Vicki, let's go on what you were just saying. I appreciate you talking about not wanting people to walk away, because as a journalist, I've seen that far too often. There is a single issue or a referendum, and that's over. I've voted, I've had my say, I'm done. I don't need to come out for 6 months or another year. And I think we lose something. I think we're not getting to the right place when we just walk away and we're focused on what we're mad about in many cases, and not about what's working and how we can get it to work better. So in that spirit, we'll start with Vicki with these questions. How can better communication and support, ongoing, not just during referendums, develop a more unified community vision, put a more positive focus on lacrosse schools?
I think there's some great examples of other school districts that have had success. And, I pointed to the Unalaska school district saying, here's a document that came out of a committee. You can see who was involved in the process. And a lot of times it is those engaged individuals in the community. I mean, I looked at Unalaska list that I know 4 of those people, and I could go to those 4 people because I know them and ask them about it. So being very transparent with everything. It's hard for people to step up because they don't want to be in the public spotlight. But on the same hand, it is needed so that we can, again, move masses of people towards common vision. I think there's a lot of collection opportunities for feedback, whether it's through surveys, whether it's through the questions like through the virtual. I also think using all forms of technology, going online, what would be really helpful, I know I heard a lot, was recording the session so that people that work third shift have the ability to participate, having slides up. Just again, tools that people can access on their own time would be helpful in addition to just live events.
Back to the same question, how can better communication and support, and again, ongoing, not just a one-off, develop a more unified community vision, put a more positive focus on La Crosse schools?
Yeah, I think the key there is the dialogue, two-way communication. And, sometimes I think for both parties, it's an opportunity to improve there. We're always seeking ways to improve dialogue with our community. Sometimes it's the big, high profile, the visible things that get a lot of attention. But I also think about all the ways we're communicating with our families, with our community on an ongoing basis, every single day, our buildings, with our teachers, with our principals. Through curriculum committees, through advisory committees, through school board committees. There's just an infinite number of ways, I think, in which we're listening to our community, taking in feedback, using that to make good decisions along the way. But there are still opportunities to do more. I hope that, as we think about opportunities in the future, like a facility advisory committee, similar to what Alaska went through, or as we think about strategic planning, and the people are willing to engage with us as well. When I think about transparency and public government, we put so much information out there and subject to open records requests. We'll take advantage of that from time to time, but people have to engage with that information as well themselves. And so when we have a website for our referendum out there, we hope that people seek that out, seek the presentations, information, and additional opportunities to engage. And so we're always looking for ways to improve our level of engagement. And it's certainly those high visibility things that people point to. But I also think about the myriad of ways every single day that we're engaging with the public's engaging with us through emails and curbside conversations and conversations with teachers and principals.
Give us an example. What kind of communications are you putting out? Emails? Are you putting out electronic newsletters? What sort of communication you talk about doing it on a regular basis?
So things that go on all the time. Our buildings have newsletters that go out to families. We have distribution lists where we send out information about key things from the district perspective. We have ongoing committees that meet. We have a SRO advisory committee, we have a curriculum committee, we have a discipline committee, we have school board meetings twice a month, opportunities for public comment scheduled every single month for folks to come in and talk to us as well. All of us have open door policies as administrators. Never turn down any single person to come speak to me at any time. I've heard every phone call ever given to me. So I think there's lots of opportunities for us to be engaged, that happens kind of on a continual basis. And that's, sometimes there's folks that are alienated from the school district or don't feel like they're heard, or they've had bad experiences and so on. So it's incumbent on us to continue to try to do more, find new ways to engage folks so that everybody feels heard. And I think we're continuing to take feedback from this referendum to the folks that are talking to us and continue to try to do better.
If I can, another really interesting component that was eye-opening for a lot of individuals, myself included, for example, I have interaction with city council, and I find that the school board just runs very different. And so we're used to our electeds representing like a particular district that we have. School board is very different because you represent all, you don't have an assigned area. But also at any point in time, you can go onto the city website and see agendas and see attachments, and we're just used to that transparency level, and the school board just has a very different model. And so I think was an eye opener and an education for a lot of the public saying, what do you mean I can't just call up my school board member, or I can't just click on something and get all of the documents right away and in advance, because it's gone through committees, it's very public. So a lot of times things that come up to the city council has been vetted through very public committees, and the school board just operates different from that. So that's an adjustment for the public, and probably an opportunity for education as well of how do you know what's coming up? How do you comment on it? And one thing that I know I had commented on was it's really hard to show up to a public hearing on something when you don't know what's coming up on the agenda. It's just not a good way to get feedback in a public hearing because you haven't seen some of the documents that are being proposed.
Fair enough. We often look east to west in this community from the bluffs to the rivers. And this is a great place to live, no question. But we also often look north-south when it comes to challenges. And that could be transportation, it could be education, it could be any number of issues. Doctor, how can the community and the school district work together to help bridge that?
Yeah, I think trying to come around to a unified vision of lacrosse over time. I think it was in the 1870s when North Lacrosse became a part of lacrosse proper. I don't think that has completely left people's concept of the area. A lot of it comes from very good reasons. People are proud of where they're from. People are proud of their neighborhoods in the city, and they're proud, the north side as well, south side and other places. So I think there's a lot of good that can come from that. I think schools are an area where you can start to develop that larger identity. Having divisions that do run along the north and south for our school system as well, it certainly reinforces that separate identity. There's not necessarily wrong. I think people think about lacrosse as a whole often, when it suits them, and they think about their neighborhood or where they're from when it suits them as well. And so I don't know that there's necessarily an imperative to think just lacrosse. I think we can have both. And so it's finding ways to celebrate the opportunities where we are unified and also celebrating the uniqueness of where we come from.
Excellent. Vicki, from your perspective, how can the community and the district work together to help bridge some of the what I'll call parochial neighborhood issues that we have?
Yeah, it's tough because as someone from my generation explained, I love history, and they explained that when they went to school, Central was seen as the place where you go on to college, and Logan was seen as the place where you go straight into work. And that is still ingrained, if you will, in some of the people that are going out and voting, right? So many people know this, our voting base tends to skew older. And so it's a little bit of aging, if you will, getting past that reputation. But here's where, whenever you have conflict, right, you start with the areas that you are united on. And to Dr. Engel's point, and everyone knows that we support education. It's been shown in those referendums time and time again. And so that's the unifying piece. You have to start with what's good for our students, explain that need out there, and say, okay, how do we make better, stronger school for our students? How do we increase that academic performance? And you start there, and then you show the programs that are going to help with that. But it's really tough, and I had given this feedback to Dr. Engel, it's really tough having building conversations, right? Those are harder to show that impacts your students as a way that programming does. So having the operational conversations, now people can understand that and say, how do we create the right conditions for the students? Everyone who has students says it's all about the teachers, right? That's what makes your kids go to school. And so that also is the emotional piece. So those are the unifiers, right? How do we create stronger conditions for our kids? And that's the focus group is really focusing on, okay, what does that environment look like that they are going to on a daily basis?
Mickey, let me follow up quickly. You talked about the building issue, and that is a challenge. And yet there is a model on the north side, and that's Northside Elementary, in a neighborhood that had two small, much older buildings, and now has a more unified approach. And it's not just a school, it's become kind of a community center. So there are models, right?
And it's full.
Right.
So it is an example of, and it's also, I mean, you can't ignore the fact that you took Northside schools and you put them into a Northside school, right? So you didn't necessarily poke that pride of the North Side bear that's out there. You were creating a stronger environment that everyone understood. This is going to advance, in this particular case, the North Side.
Terrific. Doctor, the mayor has stated a goal of creating more than 1,500 housing units in the city that will clearly provide additional family housing. Has the district been involved in this effort, and how should the district and community be working together to plan for this?
As far as housing, we're not housing experts, we're education experts. So I've got personal ideas, but it's like an institution that's not really an area where we demonstrate expertise, where houses should be built or how or whatnot. We rely on our city planning department, those folks to think about what that looks like. Obviously, public education and where schools are located has a significant impact on property values and the attractiveness of neighborhoods. And so we would love to be part of a conversation about comprehensive planning in their city. And would love to be invited to be a part of those conversations when they do have it. We would love to involve the city as we move forward, as we think about our facilities, and to be in alignment on how to grow a better lacrosse through not only housing development, but where our schools are and support each other.
I'm going to ask Vicki one more question, but in a couple of moments, I'll ask anyone who would like to come forward, state your name and ask a brief question. You're more than welcome to. Vicki, same question about this with your business background. More housing units could mean more students, could mean lots of opportunities as well as challenges for the district. So how would you like to see school district, city hall, others be working together on what happens?
That plays into my background to working with the Builders Association. So what we know, and in fact, I just happened to be at a meeting with the Village of Holman administrator this morning, and it was asked, okay, you have this population of building. So the numbers, a jaw drop for me, the number that he gave, there is capacity in Holman for 8,000 single family homes. They still have that capacity, and they recognize that they will predominantly grow it will grow on the residential side. I'm going to use a word that doesn't exist. So to me, that shows that when people are looking for new single family homes, that is the place that they go to. And so what we have to do, I identified this when we created the First Friend program at the chamber, and we had individuals, literally I had an amazing family. The realtor, by the time the realtor even got in touch with that family, they had said, we looked at the property taxes in La Crosse, we're gonna think about moving to La Crosse. And so we have to tell the story of why live in the city of La Crosse. And we have to be capturing those families, because if we don't capture those families, the school district sees that happening. And so they see that decline. So we have to, as a community, figure out where our opportunities are. And like I said, that the comprehensive planning process is happening right now. I said to the planner, I said, I see it as we have incredible, in the next, let's just say 20 years, we're going to have amazing housing stock become available. That would be fantastic for first-time home buyers. How do we as a city start planning for that? Because that's the next wave of growth in the city of La Crosse, is to say, here is actually some affordable housing as people move out of it into potentially senior living, which is also what we need. How do we then get families in so that we can again start populating that school? And that's a shared goal. It's good for the city of La Crosse, it's good for the school district, it's good for the tax base staying steady and growing. And so we have to be thinking about the greater appeal of why La Crosse.
But isn't that further reason for groups like yours to urge all sides, the district, city hall, others who have a stake in this, to work together to really maximize the opportunity?
Absolutely, and beyond, right? So we need the realtors telling those stories. There needs to be a story that everyone is able to share. And it's a matter of pulling the right people together and creating that narrative.
Correct. I think that's really important, and I hope we can get that kind of dialogue going soon. Now, we'd be glad to turn it over to any questions people here have, or online if there are any questions yet, Lee.
Well, while we're waiting for some people to come forward here, I do have some questions online. This one is from Paul Brown, and it's to Dr. Engel. How do you explain that a $60 million referendum will cost $29 per $100,000 in evaluation, but the $195 million referendum is only going to cost $8 per $100,000?
Thank you for that question. Tax bill rates are often challenging to understand as it involves a whole series of complicated concepts. But the basic idea for these two referenda is, with the capital referenda on the ballot in November, we had almost $2 in debt falling off on the mill rate. And so that offset that cost. So the 8 cents was the difference between 1 year's mill rate and the next. So that debt was leaving our books. Similar situation here this year. We have a much less debt leaving our books, but it results in a larger increase. We're almost paying for the full cost of it on the face value, as opposed to the capital referendum. And they're also levied over a longer period of time, right? So we got $195 million levied over 20 years versus 60 million over 6. You know, so those differences definitely create different mill rate impacts. But I understand those questions. It's logical to ask.
I didn't know we had bashful people in La Crosse, but I got another question here. So the school district of La Crosse is adopting a new grading system called standards-based grading. And the question is, this is not being well communicated. Why is this not being communicated well, so the community is well informed and aware of this change?
Yeah, standards-based grading is a best practice that has been around for 30 years. It's something that I implemented when I was a first-year teacher, the fourth-year teacher at the school district, as a principal, as a superintendent. It's a common best practice in public education. And we've actually been doing standards-based grading in La Crosse for many, many years at the elementary level, and successfully. Parents understand it at that level. They get what the indicators are. They understand that it's, you know, basically letting kids know up front what they need to know, letting them know how they're progressing along that, and then giving them good feedback. So we're in the process of educating our middle and high school folks about what that looks like at that level. There's some tweaks and differences, and you know, some places they change things more radically. We're still keeping letter grades because we know that's, you know, familiar to folks. But anytime you're implementing something new, there's some implementation hurdles, and how we keep that parents, you know, certainly one of those. So we're continually working to ensure that folks understand, like, this is really best practice. We have a long-standing history of standards-based grading across.
Still waiting for people from the audience. However, I got another question.
Thank you for breaking the ice. If you'll please give us your name and brief question.
Name's Joe Kay. Because we're talking about communication, I thought I'd ask, you know, as painful as it was for someone to close Lincoln's, or yeah, Lincoln. That's kind of low hanging fruit for this city. I was expecting it, but now we're gonna close an elementary school, and I'm just wondering about what's the plan for communicating that, or, you know, I know I read the paper, there was some sort of study or committee being formed, but I haven't heard anything since.
Yeah, thank you for that question. Yeah, the school board this winter made the difficult decision to close Lincoln Middle School. Something that's been a conversation in our community for 25 years. And between declining enrollment, needing buildings, to address those deficit budgets was a decision that they chose to make. As we move forward, we have to continue to think about the impacts of declining enrollment for elementary schools as well. We're putting together a facility advisory committee that will commence in April, run through November, December of this year. It'll involve community stakeholders that will be part of that group, 25 to 30 folks that will meet monthly over that period of time. Evaluate a range of options, look at our school district, think about where we want it to be now into the future, make recommendations as it relates to potential elementary closure, that part of their recommendations, as well as how can we make our middle schools and our high schools the best they can be. You know, if we've got two of each, how do we ensure that students get the best possible education, equal opportunities regardless of where they live in our city?
I'm just curious, if someone is interested in joining that committee, what can they do?
Yeah, shoot us an email. We're putting together a list of folks to consider. We want to keep it a group that is able to collaborate, make decisions, and so it's limited. We want diverse representation, and we want representation from across our parents, business leaders, legislators, teachers, you know, folks from across to represent everyone in our community.
And these will be public meetings that will be announced ahead of time so that even if someone's not on the committee, they can come listen.
Yeah, we intend to open them to the public if folks want to come. Our goal is to also videotape them and make them available to watch afterwards if folks are interested. And it's website as well. The presentation's posted also with updates to our school board.
And of course, school boards meetings are recorded as well, correct?
Yep, our school board meetings are posted on the internet, and then people can always go back and listen to the audio later if they're ever interested in the conversation that I have about an idea. We have all of our information up on our website too. We're obligated, just like any other governmental entity, to post our meetings in advance, to produce the documents that are used for each of those meetings, and that's all up on the board website.
And the state law says 24 hours in advance for posting notice of the meeting and the agenda. It should be clear to anyone looking at this when and where is the meeting and what kind of business will be discussed.
Absolutely.
Okay.
If I can suggest, so one of the challenges that the public sees is that you're communicating out to parents through your distribution that way. But I think posting things on Facebook would be helpful, saying we're looking at this committee structure if you're interested. So using Facebook more to engage the wider public. I think the public would appreciate that.
Good suggestion. What other questions do we have? Go ahead, Mary Jo.
Hi, my name is Mary Jo Werner, and my question has to do with buildings, but public safety for the students and regarding the SROs. And is this $60 million referendum going to include monies for SROs, or what's the status of SROs in general?
Yeah, great question about our school resource officers. We employ 3 school resource officers through our community service fund. So it's a separate fund, not involved with this referendum. We work with the Crosse Police Department to evaluate what our needs are in our school district. We track calls for service, situations that schools report, and we're always trying to think about how to best serve our students for the legitimate legal and safety issues that come up. Historically, schools over-involved police in matters that didn't need to be involved. You know, a kid would kick a trash can and we give them a disorderly conduct. You know, that was really not a ticketable offense. That was an administrator act that needed to happen to help that student get back on track. We've gotten better at that over the years. And so we're finding that we didn't have as much need for law enforcement response when we were properly responding as administration. And so as we move forward, we're continually reevaluating what that level of support needs to be. We meet regularly with an SRO advisory committee to review data. This involves our collaboration with the police, And so it's an ongoing process to respond to our students' needs to ensure that when there's a legitimate legal or safety issue, we've got a trained police officer there to respond to that student the right ways.
Who is on the SRO committee? How do they, would somebody from the outside, not a teacher or a administrator, be involved in that?
Yeah, it's community members that we have invited to be a part of that group, representing diverse representative groups across our district. And they meet on a biannual basis to review that data.
How would one apply?
Somebody was interested, shoot us an email and we can definitely consider folks. We have a limited number of spots though. We want to make sure that we're representing a cross section of our community.
Is there risk that that budget for that community resource is going to be reduced or eliminated?
We evaluate our community service fund on an annual basis. It funds not just school resource officers, but also our partnerships with the Boys and Girls Club and the YWCA for restorative justice, and any number of other community efforts. So it funds a wide range of things. The state hasn't interfered with that budget in many years, and so we're hopeful that we're continuing to have the ability to levy through there. But it's been a really great benefit to our community to be able to use those funds.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am, another question?
My name is Margaret Wood. I appreciate the efforts and the programs that have been implemented for exposing our students to the trades. Has anything been done to balance that with, say, the fine arts? Like where's our next opera singer going to come from, our next symphony conductor, our next teacher?
Good question.
Yeah, absolutely. We support kids exploring the full range, comprehensive high school experience, down into elementary as well. We're fortunate in the school district of Crosse to offer 4th and 5th grade string. That's not something that happens in most school districts. So it's a neat opportunity to support orchestra all the way through. We recently submitted or supported a grant opportunity to the La Crosse Community Theater to hire educator that works in our buildings, helping develop drama programs at the middle and high school level. And so that's a new thing this year that has been great to produce that next opera singer. And so there are opportunities across the arts in order to continue to build that in our schools. I have played violin since I was 3. I was in drama myself. I played saxophone in the band and sang in the choir. So it's certainly a passion area of mine. And we're continually thinking about how to support those programs and ensure that kids get an opportunity to explore that interest if it's one that they have. And not every kid goes on to be an opera singer, but I know that for me, those opportunities for performance, to be in front of people, to stretch myself and be a little uncomfortable, they led to good public speaking skills, I hope, and leadership opportunities. So I think even if you're not going to become a trumpet player professionally, there's still an opportunity to participate in band, explore your interests and horizons, and become a better citizen on the other hand.
Tell us a little bit about the AP, taking college classes during your high school years. How is that working and how many students taking advantage of that?
Yeah, we have a range of opportunities for students to explore and prepare for the post-secondary level. One of those is AP classes, advanced placement. Students take classes in our schools with a high school teacher. They can take a test that allows them to earn college credit if they reach a certain score. And we have a whole range of options for AP for our students. And those are great opportunities. We also have the Start College Now program that allows students to take classes at a post-secondary university like the WCTC, Viterbo, or UW La Crosse. And so while they're in high school, they get the support from their teachers and that network to go try out something at a college and be successful. And we have plenty of students that take advantage of that as well. And one of the neatest opportunities I think that we have is our transcripted credit options through Western Technical College. We have hundreds and hundreds of students that take classes in our schools with our teachers. And those classes and curriculum are articulated with Western Technical College. And if they complete that class with a B or higher, they get credit at Western. And so a lot of our students will walk into Western Technical College with 18, 20 credits already. They can shave a semester, sometimes even a year off their journey to that post-secondary education and career that they're interested in. And we're continuing to look at those partnerships with Western, with UW La Crosse, with Viterbo, to ensure that kids get that full breadth of opportunities to transition into that next phase of their life.
That's great. And I would just like to suggest that the school district work with our neighborhood associations and invite a neighborhood to this, the girls' basketball, the boys' basketball, the choirs, the concerts. Because when I go, I just see too many empty seats. And I know there are a lot of people that would appreciate what our young people are doing. And maybe we could just say, let them know what is happening and, they might, one neighborhood might get in.
I love that suggestion. Thank you.
Now, I thought you were gonna ask the logical question, which saxophone did you play?
That was an alto.
I have another question online I'd like to, this is for both of our speakers. So both of you lead passionate bases, especially the base on the north side of last referendum. As leaders of passionate bases, how will you ensure your bases stay respectful during the issues of opposition?
I feel like you started getting questions.
Sure, go ahead.
Boy, how do you rein in passion, right? So I think it's really important because I said this to the north side of this referendum needs the south side. And honestly, we heard from the south side. The south side is just as mad as the north side, and you saw that come out in the vote, right? So no issue in La Crosse can be just a north side or south side. And we really need to stop talking north side and south side because that's just not healthy for our community. I think anyone who has been in any sort of public office realizes that darn social media, people say things on social media they would never say if they were looking eyeball to eyeball at you. And the whole idea of slander and malice is just gone out the window, right? And so how do you control that? I mean, you have to, I think there are some people out there that are willing to say that's just not true. I mean, you end up getting these long comment threads and that's where the passion goes awry, is on social media, because again, anybody can be keyboard warriors. So that's hard to rein in, but there was during the initial referendum, this unified place where people would come to say, where's the next meeting? Something that the school district paid, and thank you for that, is putting the events out on Facebook. So now people can see when the next events are. Again, it's just ensuring that the information coming out of central places is trying to be accurate, if you will, the rein in the false information.
Yeah, I would say passion as it relates to public education is nothing new. I can't say that the experience with this last referendum was any different than playing time for varsity basketball over the years. It all depends on the issue and the circumstance. And to understand, people generally start to come around. We engage in dialogue and an opportunity to talk back and forth. I found 99% of folks reasonable and respectful through the referendum process. If it was one directional communication, maybe it was overly passionate, but if people were willing to listen and have a conversation at our informational sessions, I never found folks to be particularly disrespectful. They were passionate about their issue and they had questions about what was going on. I think we're not all working from the same set of facts sometimes, but in the end, I found just about everyone I've encountered to come around if they're willing to engage in dialogue. It starts with us first listening to really understand what's going on.
Yeah, I think that's a terrific note to wrap up on, is listening, respecting each other, trying to come to the same set of facts, taking that passion and maybe not reining it in, but focusing it. and trying to use it in a unifying fashion, trying to be collaborative as a community. So I think that kind of a note might be a good way to end it. If I could, it's my pleasure to offer a wrap up this evening. Turn the program over to the Vice President, General Manager of WKBT, Christopher Palmer. Chris?
So. Work behind this, off the screen. Strong communities and strong schools go hand in hand. The benefits of a strong school system include many things. Maintaining and increasing local property values, providing a qualified local workforce, lowering crime rates, creating a strong sense of community and supporting more stable families. Really would like to thank everyone that took time out of their schedule to come tonight and be in attendance and joining us here. A special thanks to Dr. Engel and Vicki Markison for their participation. Thoughtful insights and willingness to come together to help find answers as well. Public education system is critical to our future success, academic, social, emotional, and physical development of our children. Schools are essential for a vibrant community and where families come and interact and come together. I think we heard that tonight in various forms. So thanks to Lee for being the ringleader of this and leading the charge and putting this together, and Rusty for leading and moderating the discussion. And Lee mentioned these groups earlier, part of the community, but I do want to listen again because a really good group of people that also assisted in this, which is the La Crosse Tribune, Wisdom News, WXOW, Wisconsin Public Radio, Great Rivers United Way, Leader Ethics, and your very own WKBT News 8. So thank you to everyone that participated. So thank you for coming and have a great evening.
Yeah,